Let me ask you about the incident at Gaiser Middle School. Obviously, that was a big talking point for the community, that riot that happened there. I had an opportunity to read through a lot of the reports, the arrest reports from some of your deputies and their accounts of what they saw and what happened there. And it was sobering to see sort of the behavior that was coming out of some of these 12 and 13-year-old kids.
Yes.
And their attitudes toward law enforcement. Now, there was some talk amongst the community that the recent officer-involved shootings may have played a role in that. There was one report that came out of one of the students or one of the children that was arrested in that incident that talked about that his dad had been shot. I know that obviously there's some stuff you can't talk about. I mean, just give me your sense of that situation as far as you can, of what you know of what happened there.
Again, that's part of, it's no longer a surprise to see how people react, especially if they're part of what they believe were victims, prior incident rolls over into a second, and they're maybe more vocal. It doesn't mean we don't do the job that we need to do and take the actions that we need, but again, I understand where that emotion comes from. The shock for me was, at first, I almost had to smile a little bit thinking I hear about a riot at a middle school, and you know, that in and of itself sounds a little odd. But when I saw some of the footage and I read some of the reports and talked with some of the people involved, they were totally shocked with the amount of anger coming from such a young population of folks, especially in our schools, at a time when our community is really used to a little more structure and people being a little more courteous to each other and respecting law enforcement. And to have out and out attack on school officials, physical attacks on school officials, and the name calling and the actions of the young middle schoolers against law enforcement was really a surprise.
What does that tell you in terms of, you know, do you guys need to do you feel like you need to do a better job of sort of communicating in the schools? I mean, just what's your sense of how do you address that attitude amongst people that young?
That's a very good question, and part of that I think starts at home with the parents, and then it does go to the schools. However, the schools should not be the ones responsible for raising those kids in a way that they should show the respect that they should show. Certainly they have a right to protest or to be angry about something, but they need to do it in a civil manner. So again, it was a little shocking, but I don't believe it's the police responsibility to change the way that they act necessarily, except for how we deal with them and interact with them in the schools through our school resource officer program. So we have police officers in the schools. Now, they may not be full-time in the middle school. They may be in the high school, and then they go to the feeder schools to help out with incidents. So we could broaden maybe the scope of our program, getting those law enforcement officers into those schools as often as we can, so that the students get used to seeing them, understanding them. And again, face-to-face interactions, if you know somebody, are more difficult to throw out language that is enticing if you actually have a connection to them. So we will do our part to continue with that school resource officer program and reach out through PAL and other programs where we have the opportunity to be with kids, coach them, mentor with them, answer their questions, and let them see that we're human too. We're no different than their parents. We just have maybe a different job.